Hi, I'm Maribeth Quinn, a mixed media collage artist from Nashville, Tennessee. And today I'm going to talk about how you can boost your creative freedom in your work by doing this very simple exercise. I use it all the time. It works so well, and it is simply working in multiples. If you've watched some of my other videos, you might have noticed me doing this. Today you can see I'm working on a piece of 12 by 12 watercolor paper, and I've simply just divided it into 4 squares with a light pencil mark. But what I'm going to do is just work on this whole piece of paper as one painting, but not even think of it as a painting. I am simply finding papers that I like. I'm using all of these botanical papers that I make, and I'm just placing them all over the paper. I'm not thinking about a 12 by 12 painting, and I'm also not thinking about the 4 squares that it's divided into. I am simply just placing papers. So I'm not really going into the area of composition and balance and color and all of that. I'm simply allowing myself to be expressive. Like when you were a child playing with art supplies. You just simply thought about being expressive, and you loved the joy of how the paper felt, or the pencil or whatever you were working with felt in your hands, and you concentrated on those things. Well, that's what I do when I work in multiples like this. I just respond to color, I respond to shape, and I really purposely just try to only take those things into account. Not because I think that that's all that's important, but because I'm practicing. I am practicing allowing myself to create and express without all of those questions and thoughts. Because really, what I've discovered, at least for myself, is that you can't paint expressively without a confidence in your ability to solve problems. So that's essential. But the second piece of that I often leave out when I talk about it is that to try to solve problems when you're just at the beginning stage and expressively painting, like just responding to color and texture and that you like that piece of paper, to think about problem solving at that point really gets in the way, because you have to make a problem before you can solve it. So I am right now in the stage of making problems. I'm also making a lot of solutions at the very same time. I'm creating things by just responding intuitively to what I love. And so that's really what's going on here. And the reason I do it so often, working in small multiples, is because it gives me a chance to practice that in a very non-threatening way. And the reason I say non-threatening is because if you really take note to when you start to get nervous or locked up, what are the things that are going through your mind? Usually they're things like, I need this to be really good, or I need this to turn out well. I'm trying to avoid my own reaction to something not turning out the way that I wanted it to. And so we start trying to control things, problem solve way too early, when if you work on this small scale and also divide it up into multiples, then really you can more easily tell yourself, these aren't even paintings. I'm just experimenting. I'm learning. Making something beautiful at this point is not a requirement. It's not the agenda. I can simply just see what happens when I pick this paper and layer it over the top of what's there before. I'm in a state of learning. And sometimes it's hard for us to get to that place. So over the years, when I really started noticing how hard it was for me at times to get and then stay in that place, I started paying attention to what my triggers were. What is my trigger for pulling me out of that place? A lot of times it was working on a painting that was too big. Sometimes it's working on a canvas instead of paper, because a canvas seems more serious. It seems more permanent in my mind. And sometimes it's just working on one painting. Because if you're working on just one painting at a time, you can get over-focused. You start trying to think about the bigger picture too soon. So this way, you keep yourself small and you keep yourself experimenting. So now I'm at the stage where I'm just cutting these apart, and look what happens. It's kind of magical. Each one of these squares has its own little universe going on. And from here is where, if I liked them enough, or if I just wanted the exercise, I would venture into problem solving. I would say, now what do each of these need? So, and this is what you see me doing here. What does this one small little square, what does it need? And I will start practicing my problem solving from there. But see, because these are so small, I really feel safe to do that without feeling like I'm risking too much or that I'm going to ruin something. That feeling of being scared you're going to ruin something has probably actually been the cause of more ruined paintings than we could ever imagine. So keeping this small on paper and just it's just really so manageable and disposable. You can venture into the area of trying to solve your problems, because another magical thing that happened when I started practicing problem solving, instead of just telling myself I just should know how to do it, because if I were really talented, I would just know how to do it, which is kind of, now I realize, such a mistaken idea. But when I started allowing myself to practice problem solving is when I found not only that I really could learn how to problem solve, but that my confidence began going up, and also my ability to stay in that initial creative output and expression, that creative freedom, really went off the charts. So that's my main exercise for boosting my creative freedom in paintings, is to practice in these small multiples. And then at the end, once I cut them apart, then I start thinking about, how could I make this better? How could I fix the color balance on this? How could I learn about color balance? How can I learn about composition? And I gave myself that room and that freedom to experiment and problem solve and learn, because those are definitely big things. Problem solving is a big deal. So to give yourself the permission and the space to learn it is truly a gift to yourself. So these are the little finished paintings, little experiments. And if you would like to get on my email list to learn about any new classes that I have coming up, and I do have one coming up, then just follow that link in the description. And if you would like to today begin learning to paint with paper, oh, what a joy it is. You can also find that link in the description, and I would love to have you in class. So as always, I just so appreciate you being here. I love to read all of your comments and hear about your art practice. So thanks for spending your precious time with me.